Okay, we're all set up for our experiment, our visual. This is one of my favorites. I love to see what happens when we have different volumes of developer. All I want you to do is focus on how much power, how much energy, how much oxygen release is at each level. That's all I want you to worry about for now. So here we go. That was fun. I love seeing that visual. It's always so cool to watch the action happen. So hopefully what you noticed is that level 10 released the energy that it had, and it was just a little bit relaxed and slow, and you saw it all the way to the 40. It was like strong and powerful. That's pretty cool. I'll show you kind of visually what it does to this napkin here. Out of 10, there's not much happening. Out of 20, I don't know if you can see with all the reflection over here, a little bit. 30, you've got a little bit more happening here in terms of overflow. And then 40, if you can see, there's this ring around the napkin at 40. So what that's telling us is the energy that we have at different volumes of developer, that has to go into hair, into a cuticle. So if that energy is really powerful and it's blasting in, what goes in must come out. If it's going to blast in like that, it's got to blast out. So can you imagine what the possibilities that it could do to a cuticle layer? Certainly, it has the power to blow off some of the cuticles if we're not careful and cautious in how we use our developers. So important to know the power at each volume. All right, so now the next question I think a lot of us would have or may have is, well, I get that it releases oxygen, and I get that it's different amounts of energy at different levels, but how about timing? What's the timing on the release of that oxygen, that superpower? So my answer to that would be, well, it all depends on how much alkalinity or the ratio of alkalinity that you mix it with. So how you can view that is, let's see, this jar right here is going to represent a tube of color at a level 5. What you're going to notice is, at a level 5, this is my ratio of pigment. And then right here, that's my ratio of alkalinity. That's how much alkalinity I have versus how much dye. This one right here is going to represent my level 10. At a level 10, you'll notice I have a lot less dye, but I have a lot more alkalinity. So the ratio is different. So if I mix, let's say, a 10 volume developer, and I mix it with a level 5 that has this much alkalinity to it, what that's going to tell me is my sizzle will happen for about this long, level 5. And then my deposit's going to continue to happen. But if I mix that same level 10 volume with a level 10, different amount of alkalinity. So this is like the boss man. This guy, the alkalinity, if you remember, it's the trigger, but it also tells the developer how long it's going to be able to work dependent on how much alkalinity is in that substance. So let's say a 10, level 10, with a 10 volume. So here's my sizzle. That 10 volumes allowed to work for about this long. And then deposit continues to happen. So my level 5, and then deposit continues to happen. Level 10, sizzle, 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 deposit. So what about if I mix it with lightener? Different story. So here's my 10 volume, and here's my lightener. Now the difference between a lightener and a tube of hair color is that lightener doesn't have a ratio of alkalinity. It is alkalinity. It's just alkalinity. And so what that means is when I put it with a 10 volume, it's going to work and work and work and work. It's going to work until that extra oxygen is used up, all gone. Normally, that reaction happens between 60 minutes, so an hour to 2 hours, depending on how the volume that you use, and it also depends on if the lightener stays wet. As soon as it dries, done. There's no more action happening, or unless you shampoo it. So a lightener, there's not really quite time that is associated to lightener. It just goes and uses all the available oxygen. Very different than my hair color, which limits the amount of time that this guy's allowed to work. So I hope that helps you in terms of timing. Let's try another. Let's say I use a 20 volume developer, and I use my level 5 with my 20 volume developer. So now my sizzle is a little bit of a low sizzle. It's a little stronger. So if I pair that with a level 5, the amount of time that this is allowed to release its oxygen is kind of like this. So here I go with my low sizzle. Now my lifting, my lightning action is about done, and my deposit continues. But if I use that 20 with my 10 volume, here we go. So here's my amount of energy that I have available. And now I mix it with 10 volume. So now it's going to work for a longer period of time in terms of lifting, and deposit happens. So timing's different, but the timing between levels is different, and the energy was different because I used 20 volume. So what if I pair the 20 volume with lightener? So here I go. Here's my low sizzle. There we go. Lightning happened. Releasing some oxygen, and it's going. And it's going. And what if you take it out of the foil and you dry it up? Stops. There you go. So that's the difference in terms of timing between lightener and using hair color with your oxidizing agent. Phew, we've covered a lot of stuff so far. We've covered what's in the developer. We've covered what the difference between the volumes was. We covered oxygen release. We covered timing. Covered a lot of stuff. The only thing we haven't covered so far is when that oxygen or superpower in our oxidizing agent gets released, what is it doing? What's its job in a hair color and a lightening service? What's it doing? So a developer has 3 jobs. First job that a developer has when it releases that superpower is it degrades, breaks down. Another way that our industry likes to call it, or another word we like to call it, is lift. And here's why. When the hair gets broken down or degraded or fractured by that oxygen, it becomes smaller. So when the light hits it, it looks like a lighter level. So our eye views it as the hair got lifted to a lighter level. Truly, it got broken down. So our business calls it lifting. Technically, it's chemically being degraded. So that's the first job. Second job lightener has, and this only happens in hair color, doesn't happen in lightening. So lightening, the developer has 1 job, it just degrades. Now, if you have hair color, it has those other 2 jobs. So it degrades, then the second job is it's developing the dye. So in a tube of color, you don't see any color until it's oxidized. That's why it's called oxidative hair color. You can't see the color until the developer releases that oxygen and hits that dye, and then it causes a chemical reaction where you see color. So that's the second thing that it does. So degrading hair, lifting, 2, developing dye. And the third thing that it does is it delivers, or it's like a vehicle for the dye to get inside that cuticle. So 3 jobs: degrading or lifting, developing the dye, and third, it delivers the dye inside the hair like a vehicle. Those are the jobs. That's all it does. It doesn't swell the cuticle. Remember, it's acidic. It can't do that. Just 3 jobs. But like I said, in lightener, it's only got 1. There's no dye in there to deliver or to develop. So I hope, there's a lot of information, but I hope we simplified it enough to kind of give you some solid ground and understanding that when you're dealing with developer, you know it's happening. So it gives you control over what you choose in your services behind the chair. Thanks you guys so much. I'm so excited to do some more videos for you. If you do have questions about this video, or you feel like you almost got what we were talking about, but you just still need a little more explanation, feel free to reach out to me. My Instagram handle is @colorswithchemistry. Thanks so much. See you next time.